Welcome to this Java break with Basis. In this session, we'll take a fresh look at the Basis software licensing features and explore its flexibility. The flexibility provides you with options to present and configure your client's solution. My name is Paul Yeomans with Basis International, and joining me today is Bruce Gardner, our Technical Support Supervisor. Let's take a look at today's agenda. Today's session will provide some background on licensing and what FlexNet software licensing provides to our community. The components of Basis licensing will be revealed in an overview of how it all works. That will lead us to a review of some common licensing issues. Along the way, we'll review the types of Basis licenses and which ones are the best matches for your particular deployment. Bruce will review some common licensing issues that are related to license type and deployment, and he will also present the most frequently asked questions that his group receives, and of course, the answers to those questions. We'll wrap it up at the end with your questions, which can be posted at any time during the presentation in the chat window. Let's get started. Why a license? In today's environment, applications are no longer just tools to help businesses. They indeed run the business. The need to have a strategic solution for application usage choices is greater now than ever. Software deployment trends have continued to evolve, and they've evolved in realms of virtual software, cloud computing, software as a service, and each of these areas have different licensing needs. Software licensing allows Basis to provide pricing scalability, software and revenue protection both for ourselves and our developers, all while providing the end user with deployment choices and lower costs. According to the Business Software Alliance, who conducted research in 2009, 41% of installed software is illegal, costing software producers nearly $54 billion annually in lost revenue. If 41% of installed software is illegal, the product cost to the end user is naturally driven up. Licensing not only offers protection and new deployment options, but it also has allowed Basis to establish unique revenue-sharing pricing models with some of our partners as a purchase alternative. All of this is due to the protection that licensing affords us. Basis chose FlexNet from Flexera Software because they have long been a global leader in the application usage management world. More than 3,000 software vendors and high-tech manufacturers rely on their comprehensive licensing, delivery, and compliance management solutions. FlexNet provides the protection, flexibility, and choices that we wanted to provide our developer partners and their customers. Through FlexNet, we can offer a variety of licensing types, such as permanent licenses, rental licenses, and most recently, virtual licenses. Additionally, Basis is uniquely positioned with Flexera in our ability to offer a pass-through license, which protects a developer's intellectual property. This protection, flexibility, and deployment are not provided to Basis at no cost, but they are included in the Basis licensing that we offer our partners and their end users. We offer this licensing as a choice, and I'll touch on this elements shortly. What exactly does your computer do to get a license? Well, after launching the interpreter, that being either BBJ services in BBJ or the executable in Visual Pro 5 or Pro 5, well, it takes charge and looks for the pointer file, called the basis.lic. Pointer file contains a location of the Basis License Manager. The BLM receives the license request from the client and based on the type of request, checks out the appropriate user feature from another file known as the license file. In Pro 5, the pointer file must reside in the same location as the executable. In this screenshot, you see the basis.lic and vpro5.exe are in the same folder. In BBJ, the pointer file is normally located in BBJ Home. Unlike Pro 5, the BBJ executable does not need to appear in the same folder. In the example shown, the executable appears in the bin. The installer not only installs the product in minutes, but walks you through all the configuration steps quite easily. Bruce will now take us through what that installation process is like.
This is a video to demonstrate how to register for or install a Basis license at the end of a Basis License Manager install. As you can see, I've already started a Basis Product Suite installation, and I'm sitting at the custom installation panel where I'm able to pick and choose which features I'd like to install. In this case, I've chosen only to install the Basis License Manager. The next screen shows us a summary of what we're installing. As you can see, it's showing only the Basis License Manager as a feature. And I'm installing to C program files Basis, which is the default install location on Windows. This installation will take only 35 megs of space, and we'll click Next. Since I'm only installing the Basis License Manager, this should be a very quick install. At the end of every Basis Product Suite installation, a number of wizards will run, and the wizards that do run is dependent upon the features you've chosen to install. For example, if you've chosen to install the BBJ Thing client, you'll be asked to designate a Basis License Manager. That is to say, you would be asked to designate the host name of the server running the Basis License Manager. That's what we're doing here. Actually, we're installing the BLM. I'll show how to configure the BBJ Thing client to point to a BLM later in the video. As you see here, we are sitting at the Basis UAC configuration wizard, and this will run on any system that is configured to use the Windows User Account Control. This is a Windows 7 system, and so we're being asked how we would like to run the binaries associated with the Basis License Manager. Most users choose to go with standard privileges, so that's what we'll do. And we're in the Basis License Registration Wizard. And this is where you will have a choice of either installing a license or registering for a license. If, for example, you've already received a license, maybe you've registered it online from our website. I'll show you how to do that later. You might already have a license on your system. And as you can see, you can just browse to the license you received and continue on your way. In this case, we're going to go back and show how to register for a license. Since I've run the installation before, you can see that the user information that I normally prompted to enter here is already filled out for me. And here's where you'd enter the serial number and authorization number associated with your license. You can also, as you see, request a 30-day evaluation license, which is what we'll do. Note also this option to configure the license for a notebook computer. What this will do is change the composite host ID slightly so that it's more accommodating for systems that move in and out of different networks. I'll just click Next. And here we have a number of options to send and deliver your license. Most people choose to register and license automatically. You can, however, choose to send and receive it via the web browser or email. In this case, you just enter your email here. But we'll choose to register and install automatically. Click Next. And just a last configuration setting for the BLM service itself. You can choose how to configure the service, manual, automatic, or you can even disable it. Or you can have it log in after the user's logged into the system. Most people choose to run it as a service, automatic. And finally, we'll start the Basis License Manager and we should be done. So just to show you what happened, I'm going to use Explorer to go to the directory that we installed the Basis License Manager to. And as you can see here, there's a BLM directory, and if I open that up, you can see the license that was automatically sent from the Basis license server to our system here, and we have a license. Well, in the previous portion of this video, I demonstrated how to register and install a Basis license, configure the Basis License Manager, and start the Basis License Manager. So the BLM is up and running, and here I am on a different server getting ready to install the BBJ Thing client, BBJ services, and admin tools. The admin tools, as I'll show at the end of this portion, are useful to go back and change any configuration settings associated with the Basis License Manager or BBJ services. Clicking Next, we'll once again see the summary screen, which shows the 3 features we've chosen to install, and the size is now 76 megabytes for these 3 features. Okay, everything is installed. And once again, we're presented with the Basis UAC configuration screen, and again we will use standard privileges. Here we're able to designate the server that the Basis License Manager is running on. If you happen to install the Basis License Manager locally on this system, you would choose Local BLM. If, however, you've chosen to install the Basis License Manager on a different system, as we have, you would enter the host name here under Remote BLM. Clicking Next, we're brought to the Configure BBJ Services Startup Wizard. For now, we'll just skip this, and we will skip the Start BBJ Services Wizard as well, and click Finished. So we're done. What happened in the background? Well, let's go back into Windows Explorer and look at the directory we installed to. I'll go into the bin directory here, and you can see the BBJ services and bbj.exe binaries. Back up one directory, and you can see the basis.lic pointer file. This is a file that was created in the wizard designated the Basis License Manager. It's a simple two-line text file that simply points the BBJ Thing client to the host name of the server running the Basis License Manager. If you ever need to, you can edit this portion of the basis.lic directly and change the host name, or you can go through the admin wizard and change it that way. As you can see, all of the options in the admin wizard menu correspond to the same wizard functions that you see at the end of an installation. If you would like to change the name or the host name of the BLM, you simply do it here. And you're done. You can go back and change your UAC configuration. You can even register for another license. Any number of things you can do from the admin wizards.
Thanks, Bruce. For Pro 5, the Pro 5 installer just has a few minor differences. One, the product and BLM are done as separate downloads, though you can use the BLM from the BBJ download. We'll be posting a video showing the Pro 5 installer in the coming days. Let's take a moment and review the components of the Basis license that we walked through just a few moments ago. Since this is not a tutorial, I'll move rather quickly through this section, but understand and know that this presentation will be posted for you to use as a reference, and we'll post it to the website. The first component in the Basis licensing mechanism is the license file. By default, the license file is stored in the BLM directory and has a file name consisting of the number of users on the license, followed by the serial number, and then followed lastly by the type of the license itself. Each license contains all the information specific to the customer's requirements. This information includes the server or host information, specific vendor information, and a feature line. The feature line calls out the components specific to the customer's installation. The license file also contains specific information such as the unique serial number, license type, user count, and encryption information. This is what a license file looks like. The first item in red is the host ID. The host ID is the unique identifier that was generated by the BLM using a combination of hardware and OS components. Changing hardware and OS on the machine results in a new host ID being generated. The next item is the user count for each feature. Every feature that is contained in the license will have an associated user count. The third item is the Basis revision. This identifies the revision of the license and the corresponding version of the Basis products that you can use with the license. The last item on the slide is the feature name itself. Each license will contain at least one feature line and often contains multiple feature lines, and we'll digress into that in a moment. There are a few other items that can be found on your Basis license file. Here's a slide that shows the first item being the license type. With this information, you can determine if the feature line is a permanent or an expiring feature. It is possible to have a license with features that have both permanent and expiring feature lines to it. An example of this might be an existing BBJ license where the customer has opted to add Barista and chose to purchase an expiring Barista license. We can determine the name of the feature line by looking at the first piece of information on the line, which is the third item on the screen there. The next item is a serial number for the license. No matter how many features exist in the license, the serial number will remain the same for every feature. And lastly, at the bottom of this slide is the encryption information. As you might guess, the pointer file points the client to the location of the server running the BLM. All of this is established and created as part of the license installation process. It is possible for a pointer file to point to more than one server, and we'll see an example of this a bit later. The next component is the Basis License Manager, or BLM, and this is the service that manages the license by tracking the license usage. The BLM receives the license request from the client and, based on the type of request, checks out the appropriate user feature from the license file itself. So what happens when the license fails? Well, first you'll receive an error message such as the one shown on this slide, and it indicates that there is indeed a licensing error. The user can select OK, and the application will continue to run in what we call nag mode, but with full functionality. In nag mode, the user is periodically prompted that there is an issue with the license that needs attention. Bruce is now going to walk us through a few of the most common Basis licensing errors and their solutions.
Well, one of our most common FlexLM error messages is an error -1, and usually this indicates that a pointer file has not yet been created. That's the basis.lic file, or that an incorrect server name is referenced in the basis.lic file. A FlexLM error -15 can result if you haven't started the Basis License Manager, or if you've referenced an incorrect host name in the license file that is being served by the Basis License Manager. A third option or reason might be, again, an incorrect host name referenced in the basis.lic pointer file on the client. FlexLM error -97 usually indicates that some hardware has changed on the Basis License Manager server, and you can confirm that by looking at the log on the Basis License Manager server and look for lines like you see here, where the composite host ID being reported by the Basis License Manager is different from what appears in the license file itself. A FlexLM error -114 error will occur if you attempt to run a newer vPro 5 9.0 or higher, or BBJ 9.12 or higher client and attempt to check out a license from an old Basis License Manager. In this case, you'll need to download a new Basis License Manager and re-register your license to get a new tamper-resistant license.
Thanks again, Bruce, and remember that this will be posted as a reference on the web in video format. Basis offers 2 license types for all products so that a developer can offer competitive solutions in the marketplace, and the user can decide if owning a license, renting a license, or using software as a service is the best solution for their business. Basis licenses use 2 security methodologies: a standard secure license and a new tamper-resistant license available in Rev 9 or higher. This license, referred to as a TRL license, offers added security for your enterprise software. In today's very competitive market, users want choices in both price and deployment, and the software developer needs to be ready to offer choices. We're able to offer a traditional or permanent license or a rental license. The rental license lends itself particularly well to software as a service, which is increasingly a viable solution for companies that want to alleviate the need for in-house hardware and their associated IT costs. For flexibility, our license can be a combination of enterprise and standard editions, as well as permanent and rental features, so that you have ultimate price and deployment flexibility. You might ask, what's the difference between standard and enterprise editions? Well, let's take a moment and take a look at that. In layman's terms, the difference is having a distributed processing environment or not. The standard edition is for multi-user, terminal-oriented single machine configurations, as shown. The enterprise edition is needed for thin client connections, thin client in a web browser, and to allow for other distributed computing environments. I had mentioned a TRL, the tamper-resistant license, just a moment ago, and this will explain in a little bit about what this is. The TRL is designed with additional algorithms beyond the standard security license. Both licenses provide excellent security and are easy to install and register. There are no additional steps required to obtain a TRL license. The BLM, Basis License Manager, handles the registration and all the installation for you. To take advantage of the TRL version, you need to be on revision 9 or higher. While we recommend using the current BLM for earlier versions, the newer 9.0 and higher versions require it. This is the message that appears in the product download page to remind you to get the current BLM to avoid any licensing errors. Because the current BLM works on all versions, we recommend that you always use it. Basis first introduced application or pass-through licensing back in December of 2000. With application licensing, you can piggyback your BBX program into the security and flexibility that Flexera licensing offers. You no longer have to worry about a homemade licensing solution, and you can use the same one which more than 3,000 other software companies have relied upon. With application licensing, a developer can package their entire application into one installation medium and let the licensing mechanism control what code can actually be utilized. Various modules can be licensed separately, and this greatly simplifies deployment and facilitates demonstration versions while protecting the source code. The risky alternative is to continue without this level of protection. I've mentioned feature lines a few times. Here's what they look like in the license file. You can quickly see the individual feature lines and if they are standard or enterprise editions. The Software Asset Management, or SAM, feature line also appears in the license file, and it's important to both the BBJ developer and the user. Let me explain. The SAM feature line allows for the coordination of the latest Bootstrap, jars, and JVMs. Without it, BBJ developers may be limited to what versions of Bootstrap jars that they can actually use. The registration process automatically generates this feature line. The SAM feature line is linked to the SAM plan expiration date. Staying current on SAM eliminates the need to check for Bootstrap jars and provides continual access to the latest JVM. It also eliminates the need to register custom or third-party jars. By keeping your license current on SAM, you will always have effortless jar administration and access to the latest Basis and Java technologies. Basis also offers a virtual or cloud license, and this facilitates running a license on virtualized software such as VMware, Xen, or Amazon Cloud, or as a single license if your host ID changes daily. This license expires and renews automatically every 24 hours, so that changing host IDs will in no way interrupt your production or development processes. Virtual licenses are available on new as well as old versions of Basis products and have a very short list of requirements. One requirement is that the BLM be from a release of Basis product Rev 10 or higher. Another is that there is an active SAM subscription, and the third requirement is an internet connection. As a side note, Basis is currently running all of our production and license servers in the cloud. As you might expect, the virtual license is managed by the BLM as long as that there is a current SAM plan and an active internet connection. With those in place, the BLM will automatically re-register the license each night at midnight, your local time. For more information on the Basis virtual license or any of the Basis license types, you can certainly go to our online documentation under licensing. So in review, the flexibility of Basis licensing allows for numerous deployment options. With an application license, our partners can ensure that the application they have developed will be protected by having customer-specific feature lines that can only be added by that partner. Depending on the business model or your end user's requirements, a permanent Basis license can be purchased, or if an ASP or service as a software model is more appropriate, a rental license might be the better fit. Our newest addition to our licensing family is our virtual license. This license is designed for those customers whose organizations have moved to the cloud computing environment or where virtual servers are being used. Basis also offers a solution to customers that may not have moved to the cloud but are looking for a strong disaster recovery option. We offer 3-server redundancy, license search path, and a standard backup license as options. Your Basis sales rep can assist you with the perfect fit. Let's take a peek at the 3-server redundancy license. The 3-server license gives you the protection to keep your enterprise system running by allowing you to register 3 machines in one license file: primary for production, a secondary for backup, and a tertiary. In this configuration, you have a quorum of servers that are always checking each other for availability. If the production server fails, the backup server will automatically take over and continue to perform the license management without any interruption. The requirements for redundant licensing is that 2 machines in the quorum must be running and communicating at all times. If a second machine in the quorum was to fail, the license would stop working until it was re-registered. The redundant license feature is available to any license that is covered by the SAM plan. We see here the diagram of what a 3-server redundancy configuration would look like. The BLM is constantly checking for the availability of the other servers in the quorum, and should one server fail, the BLM heartbeat will remain active between the 2 available servers and then continue to run. Here's a license file with 3-server redundancy. The host names and host IDs are all present in the license file. Entering them in order of production machine, backup machine, and third machine is important to have the best implementation. As shown on the previous slide, the FlexNet licensing allows you to have more than one server entry in the pointer file. This allows the user to have a redundant license file, but unlike redundant licensing, which is simply one license file with 3 hosts installed on 3 BLMs, the license search path allows the user to access multiple independent licenses for the purposes of load balancing and limited failover protection. The license search path allows for multiple license servers, each containing a subset of the total user count available on the license. So what does that mean? A customer could take an 80 user license and split the total user count amongst 4 independent license servers, each with 20 users. Should one server fail, the customer does not lose all 80 users, but instead only loses 20 users, and the other 60 users continue to run just fine. When using license search path, it's important to remember that the BLM will check out the users from the group of license files in alphanumeric order. Therefore, you want to ensure that you create names in the license files that reflect the order you want to use. A backup license is available to our customers when a virtual license or the 3-server redundant license is either not practical or if the customer simply prefers to have a standalone backup option. A backup license is a fully functional license that is sold by Basis to our consumers, and it's used only in the case where the production license is no longer available. When the production license server fails, customers with a backup license may then use a backup license server as a temporary solution until the production license is restored. A backup license may be purchased at 50% of the cost of a new production license. Let's have Bruce walk us through a few more of those license errors and their solutions. Bruce?
A FlexLM error -18 usually indicates that the client is attempting to check out a feature that is not currently served by the Basis License Manager. Check the license file that is being served by the Basis License Manager to ensure that the feature you're looking for exists. A FlexLM error -96 indicates that the client is unable to contact or connect with the Basis License Manager server. In this case, you want to look at the basis.lic or pointer file again on the client to ensure that the host name is correct.
Thanks again, Bruce. In summary then, we've reviewed why Basis licenses their products, the offering of protection for both our and your intellectual property. We reviewed the Basis licensing components and licensing types. We've reviewed how to register for a license and the components of the Basis licenses. And finally, we've covered some of the most common licensing errors and their solutions. While you're thinking about your questions or are still typing them into the chat window, let's step through a few of the common questions that our tech support area handles.
Anytime a serial number has been registered on a different set of hardware, a temporary license will be delivered with an expiration date. Always remember to contact our sales department and have your license reset prior to registering your serial number again in order to receive a permanent license. Now, once a license is generated, it is very much specific to the hardware of that system and cannot be moved to another machine. A license reset is required. Now, if your host name or IP address have changed, you're free to edit the license file that's being served by the Basis License Manager and change the host name accordingly. That is the only value that you can change in the license file. Just keep in mind that the Basis License Manager will need to be restarted so that it can properly resolve the host name. You can find your authorization number in the license registration form that Basis Customer Service sends you. And if you're having difficulty finding that, simply contact Basis Customer Service or our sales department. Installing a new license for additional users will not overwrite the old license file. Delete the old license file from the Basis License Manager directory, stop the Basis License Manager, and restart it to get your additional users. This error usually indicates that an attempt was made to register your license with an outdated Basis License Manager. Download and install a new Basis License Manager and try again. Another common problem is neglecting to include the composite equals portion of the string in the request.
We will now turn to your questions posted to the chat window, but first a quick reminder to join us in 2 weeks when we return with Preserving Mods Through Upgrades, a session I don't think you will want to miss, on a topic several of our partners have described as the holy grail of customized software. Okay, and now we turn to your questions.